right, let's get started. Before we start, let's just get some technicals out of way. Um, can Devesh or Adi say something so that I know our audio is working?
Hi.
Great. Okay. All right, and I will also keep the chat channel open, so in case someone's audio is not working or if they're having problems with their audio, you can always send a message to me on the chat. All right, let's start discussing with last week's exercises, some more exercises, and then we'll jump on to a new topic. Okay, so I guess this was the first position. So I received a lot of homeworks, so that's a good thing. So good work, everyone. Like at least what I expect from you guys is at least attempting to solve the propositions. So that's a good thing. Good job. And now let's just take a look at the solutions. I'll be giving you guys your personalized feedback after a while. Maybe not today, but after a while. Anyway, so the first problem, I think it was pretty straightforward. All of you got the answer. Rook takes c4, takes, and queen c6, right? So there is this double attack on both the rooks, and because of this pawn on b3, the rooks cannot come to a4, right? And that's what gives white the material advantage. So let's get that out of the way. Let's take a look at the second one. So this one was a bit tricky. How to do it? So as I said, like I think we are encountering this theme a few times. Like we saw pen or knight forks, and now in double attack. But sometimes double attack, like the tactical themes, they are not present on the board, but you have to. Then it's your job to calculate a sequence which leads to a situation, like to create circumstances for a double attack. Now, one of the things we discussed for double attack, like how to find double attack, is that look for any unprotected pieces, right? And also look for pieces or points where the number of attackers and number of defenders is equal. Then there is a possibility of a double attack. Now in this position, the rook on c6 is definitely unprotected, so we can exploit that. However, there are no other pieces are unprotected except for this rook. So what are we attacking? Like what else are we attacking? But if you look at how white continues, he plays his first move, okay, and now his knight on g4 is in a bad position. He has not enough squares to retreat, right? So the only square he has to retreat is knight h6, and now we see that the point on h7 is only protected by the king, but it's also attacked by the knight. So the number of attackers and defenders is same. But this is a checkmate if white's queen comes to h7. And what exactly does that? After queen e4. There is a double attack on the rook, and we also do a mating threat. So yeah, it's just an insert a diagram here. So that's the solution for this position. Again, if you, I think some of you struggled with this exercise, but as I said, like in this will be a very common pattern in our future lessons also. Like when it comes to exploiting tactics, sometimes you will, like if your opponent is a weak player, then he will just give you like very good tactical positions, right? And you can exploit them. But in most of the cases, what happens is you have to calculate, like the onus of creating those circumstances, the onus of creating favorable tactical circumstances falls on you, right? And then that's what you have to calculate. Okay, so just I think that's a good note to make. The onus actually means responsibility, right? Responsibility or the intent or work. The work of creating favorable tactical positions falls on you and the player. The player playing for a win, right? So, albeit this was like a two-move solution, it did require a bit of imagination to execute. Anyway, I think keep this in mind, and as we solve more and more problems, you will get better at it. So don't worry if you didn't get this problem. Okay, let's go at the next one. Aha, this is a problem which I really like, because White's position definitely looks very attractive in the sense that he has massive pressure along the A1 H8 diagonal, and he's always threatening mate on G7. Granted that Black's queen is defending it, but there is a lot of pressure. So, as I said before, in double attacks, there are unprotected pieces, or there are pieces with same number of attackers and defenders. So we already have an attack here going on, like a checkmating threat, but it's also getting defended by the queen. So the number of attackers and defenders for the checkmate is same. So that's 1 point for us. But we don't see any other unprotected piece, right? The other point of attacker and defender is the C8 bishop, but so that's one attacker, one defender, right? But okay, so that's one thing to keep in mind. However, as I said in the previous problem, like sometimes you have to create situations. Just create a situation where, yeah.
Since tells, I think I know a solution.
Yeah. So for everyone, the time to submit your solutions was before the lesson, right? So send me your solutions via email before we start our lessons, the solutions to the homeworks. Right now, we just want to discuss, like I just want to present the solutions and answer any questions if you have. But I'm glad you found a solution, but maybe send that via email before the lesson begins. Anyway, like and if you have sent me your solutions on email, I'm always taking a look at it. I just don't want to call out anyone at this point. I'll be giving everyone their private feedback to them and to their parents. So I don't want to give private feedback in this public forum. Anyway, so coming back to my point, we want to create situations, right? So we want to create situations favorable for a double attack. And White's first move is brilliant in that aspect. His first move is Rook C7. So it's just giving a rook. Black takes it. So if Black doesn't take it, then there will be too many attackers on the point G7, right? So we'll have the bishop as well as the queen who are attacking on G7, right? So G7 will fall. So Black has to take queen into C7. So give me Rook C7, like, let me give Rook C7, like, double exclamation. queen into c7, and now we see the queen is unprotected. And the queen is unprotected, the rook is unprotected, and there is also pressure on the g7 diagonal, right? And white plays rook into d8. The follow-up is also important. And now we see there are like multiple threats. White is threatening to take the queen. He is threatening to give a checkmate, right? He's also threatening to give another checkmate on g7. And really, black cannot defend against us. So let's just take a look at few of black's responses. So if it takes white's queen, then we know this is checkmate, right? If he takes the rook with his rook, then I will take queen into c7, and I have decisive material advantage, right? So, and the attack is still ongoing. I still have an attack here, so but I have decisive material advantage. So the material balance is white has a queen and a bishop for black's two rooks. So it's kind of like having an extra piece. Then rook d8. Yeah, if he takes with the rook, I'll take his queen. If he takes with the queen, then I give a checkmate on g7. You can play queen e7, you know, like just defending both g7 and e8. Now there are a few ways to checkmate, you know, like either you can take, and checkmate. That's one way to do it. Other ways, a little bit fancy, maybe take, right? Take, and now again, this is a checkmate because the queen is pinned. So, yeah, I mean, like there are a few ways to go about that. Yeah, and, we don't really see a lot of options, and black also doesn't have the check on c1 because it's controlled by the bishop. So yeah, after this, white has decisive material advantage, and that's how he's leveraging double attack. So this is more like a triple attack, or I guess it's a double attack on the e8 rook and queen on c7, but because of the pressure on g7, it's like multiple attacks. So let's just take a look at this from the top. Moves like this, moves like rook c7, really require a lot of imagination, backed up by a lot of calculation also. Yeah, but as you can see, after rook c7, what white is doing is creating circumstances for favorable for attack. So after white's first move, black's queen on c7 and rook on e8 are unprotected. The mating threats on g7 and back rank, like the rook on e8, create favorable circumstances for double attack, or in this case, multiple attacks. Okay, so yeah, keep an eye out for this pattern. I think both of these moves require their own diagram. I just like this position very much. What do you guys think? It's a fantastic solution. Any questions? Because I know this was a little bit tricky, tricky solution position to solve. Any questions before we move on? All right, okay. If you have anything, you can always email me offline, or you can send me a text, a chat message right now during the live lesson. Okay, moving on to the next problem. Uh, so again, like in this position, there are not a lot of unprotected pieces. In fact, there are no attacks uh, going on in this position, except for the black queen, which is unprotected, but that really cannot be leveraged. But as I said, like you have to create situations where things are conducive to tactical elements. Now, looking at this position, what we see is that white has a fantastic center, and also, so because of these pawns, the black knights are going to face some problems once white's pawn plays to e5. So let's take a look at that variation. So e5, first move. Black's knight now does not have a lot of good squares. D7, E8, G8, H7 are like occupied his own pieces. H5, G4. No, he only has to go to knight D5, and now things start to align. So knight into D5. If queen into D5, then we obviously have bishop into H7 check, and black loses the queen. And if the main line goes bishop into D5, then bishop into H7 check, king into H7, queen D3 check, king G8, queen into D5. And okay, so here white has won a pawn. So it's not as decisive an advantage as we have seen in other exercises where white wins like a piece or a queen or a rook or a mating attack. White only wins a pawn, but it's an advantage. But it's a good advantage, right? I mean, like if white shows good technique, then he should win the game. So I'm just gonna say it like it's an upper hand. Yeah, rook into d5. By the way, this pattern is pretty common. Okay, so this sort of check and gaining material, it has a bigger statistical percentage. So keep that in mind. This particular pattern. All right. Yeah, this one was easy, relatively easy. By the way, if you guys have any questions, like if you cannot understand a particular move, if you don't understand what the solution is doing, feel free to unmute yourself to chime in to ask the question, or you can always send me your questions on the chat box if you're feeling shy. Yes, Archit, you have something to say?
Yeah. Can't instead of bishop takes f7, bishop takes h7, that is one. But can white also play bishop b5?
Bishop to b5. That's interesting. Can anyone give an answer to bishop b5? So you're saying this is a double attack, right? This is a double attack against the.
Yeah, but if even if black plays c6, you can still play bishop c4. If the black bishop, oh, never mind.
Okay. Okay, I think c6 is probably a mistake, because can anyone identify the problem with c6? Or like, okay, since we're discussing this position, let's discuss it. What's the problem with c6? Can anyone check?
I think I know. Rook x d5.
Yes, that's correct. Rook takes d5, and this is like a different case of pin now, right? So this is a pin on the c pawn. There are a few variations. If you take the rook, then I'm going to take the knight on d7. And yeah, then white has like 2 pieces for a rook, but the advantage is even bigger because I have 2 bishops and a massive attack. So I'm gonna evaluate this position as really better for white. Rook takes d5 is really a good move. So good work, Anushka, there. Yeah, and black is gonna end up piece down. If he takes c into b5, then he's just gonna end up piece down. So it's clearly winning for white. A6 is a mistake, but bishop b5. I think bishop b5 is also a mistake. Can anyone tell me why it's a mistake?
I think I know.
Go ahead.
I think because then wait a sec.
Okay, let me just tell you guys, like sometimes you don't even have to look for tactics. There are some very simple threats. Black can take queen into a2 check. And yeah, now he has a terrific attack. His bishop on d5 is protected, but after the king moves, now black can start a very strong attack with move like c6. And here rook into d5 doesn't work because now I can take back. So I can take back with the queen, right? So yeah, this definitely doesn't work in white's favor. So yeah, I think good imagination, Archit. That yes, bishop b5 is a double attack. So good imagination. You deserve credit for that. But okay, I would say like one of the things I have repeated for batch number 1. Adeep, Anvita, and Arnav are already familiar with this, that we always think of what our opponent is going to play. We always think in pairs, like how will our opponent play? And there are some simple threats like this, right? Queen into a2, this is a weak point. Yeah, so you have to pay attention to your opponent's threats. So that's why bishop into h7 works, because it's a check to black king. Black doesn't have time to take on a2. And so,
All right.
Right, if he takes, then again there is a check. By the time his checks are ended, a2 is already protected, right? So it's playing on the momentum there. All right, cool. But good question, good suggestion. Good points, like points to both Anushka and Archit for participating in the discussion. Good job. Okay, let's take a look at the next position. This is going to be a little bit interesting. So this is white to play, and white's position, how shall I say? White's position is definitely stretched a little bit. His pawns are advanced. His king side is a bit shattered, right? But again, double attack comes into play if you can focus on the relevant things. So knight on g3 is already unprotected, and we have to create circumstances for another unprotected piece. And the solution goes as follows. Excuse me. The bishop into a6, rook into a6, and I play queen d3.
Queen d3.
And yeah, white wins. White just wins a piece. So I guess relatively simple again. So as I said, like the common theme in all of these positions is, like you're creating a circumstances favorable for double attack for that tactical motive, and once that circumstance has been created, then we exploit it. And we exploit the double attack by doing a double attack and gaining material. So tactical motives. I'll just like to diverge a bit that the study of tactical motives is important because it helps us reach an intermediary goal, which is winning more material, right? So winning more pieces on the board, which will help you gain advantage. So that's the importance of studying tactics. It helps you take advantages of situations that are created by your opponent, by its opponent's mistakes. Okay, so here again, the solution is pretty straightforward. Create the circumstance. There is only one piece, i.e. on d5, which has like same number of attackers and defenders, and the solution goes as bishop into g7, king into g7, then I play queen e5 check. Right? So I'm giving double attack. A check is a special kind of double attack. So the only way to defend against this is playing knight f6. If he plays anything else, then I'm just going to collect the knight on d5. But after knight f6, there comes another double attack. So this is a series of double attacks which leads to loss of material for black. So consecutive double attacks. I sort of like this position also. It's consecutive double attacks. So let me just say one thing, that queen e5 check is a double attack, whereas knight f6 is like a double defense. And these sort of things will also exist for your opponent, and it's your job to calculate these sequences, the best moves for our opponent, right? Fortunately for us, this exercise doesn't end here, so that's why white eventually collects a knight on f6. But I've seen in practice my students, like they're just giving up thinking after knight f6 because, after knight f6, the knight is saved, it's a double defense, and white cannot do anything. But you just have to go one move further, right? That's the key to finding solutions. You have to keep on digging. You have to keep on looking for options, for opportunities. And so if you stop your calculations here, then you're not gonna find the solution. 56, and white wins material. Okay, white wins. Let's take a look at another exercise. This is an interesting one. This is now black to play. Okay, so that's one change from the previous positions, is that all the previous positions were white to play. Now this is black to play. So I think starting from exercise number 7, I think all of you, or I think most of you were not able to find the solutions to 7, 8, 9, 10. So how about this? I'll give you guys like a few minutes to look at this position. How about 3 minutes more? Just take a look at this position. Since you are already warmed up, already in like a second or third gear for today's session, I think that might make a difference for you guys to come up with a answer. Just think on these lines, right? Look for unprotected pieces in white's position, and if you can take advantage of those unprotected pieces. Another motif we studied today was look for mating threats. If there are equal number of defenders and attackers for at a given point, or mating threats, like a double attack can be an attack on a piece and a mating threat attack, right? So you're just giving a threat of a checkmate. So that also qualifies as a double attack. So maybe you have to look for that, not just two unprotected pieces. Yeah, so let's take about 3 minutes. I think it's worth the effort to look into this position again. Okay, so I think that's enough time. Okay, I've got a few suggestions. That's good. I've got a few answers. So let's take a look at them. Um, so yeah, I think we definitely have these two unprotected pieces, but I think the knight on e2 is a bit more vulnerable because it's on an open file, right? So attacking this knight is going to be easier for black. So let's concentrate on e2 knight. And black already has like his rook lined up for some mating threats on the h file. I think these two things we'll be concentrating on. One idea I got was that why black takes on rook into h3, king into h3, and now black plays queen e8, right? And threatening checkmate on h5 against white's king, and also attacking the knight on e2. So yes, I mean, this is a double attack, and I think it's the right idea. It's definitely the right idea. What should I say? The only thing that bothers me about this execution, I think it's the right idea. So I'll grant you that this is the right idea, but I think the execution could be improved upon. See, by the time you give this double attack, black is already a rook down. Okay, so even if white is already, black is a rook down, and so even if white gives up this knight on e2, he will be left with slightly more material, right? So all he has to do is protect the mating threats. I think he can do a few ways. He can do that by a few ways. Maybe just play knight f3. Okay, so if we give a check on h5, I play knight h4. Okay, queen g4 check, maybe king h2, queen into e2 check. Okay, now I can play something like queen f2. And at the end of it, I don't see a decisive material advantage. Oh, forget about decisive. I don't even see a material advantage for black. He's exchanged down. He has a bishop for a rook, maybe a bishop and a pawn for a rook, and yeah, this position does not look as attractive for black as it could have been. Okay, so black already is materially down here. Okay, so I would maybe give this position as plus equals, like slightly better for white because he has material, more material, and the mating threats are taken care of, and white has a few problems, but not too many. But let's go back. Okay, so this is the right idea, but black doesn't have to give his rook on the first move. So okay, so see, if you give the rook on the first move, then white can always prioritize. You know, like white can say, okay, I'll give up the knight, but save my king by playing knight f3. That's what white can do. But if you don't give the rook on the first move and play queen e8 itself, like directly on the first move, then it's going to create a problem for white. The right execution, the right idea with the right execution. So our friend Devesh had the right idea, but I would say so. So Devesh, first of all, a good job. Points to you. Congratulations for finding the right idea. That really shows that you have good creativity and imagination. But I think we need to work on your calculation skills. That how to execute the right idea. Things come down to that. So let's take a look at the right execution. So by queen e8, I'm again threatening the same thing. I'm threatening rook into h3 and queen h5 checkmate. But the key difference is that I still have my rook. So say in case white white decides to stop the mating threat by playing, let's say, h4. I can simply grab the knight on e2 and say I'm a piece up. Okay, if he plays rook f2, I just go back and I am a piece up. Right, I have a decisive material advantage. And if he protects his knight on e2, let's say by queen f2, then I think we all know how this goes. Now rook into h3 check. If king into h3, then queen h5 checkmate, right? And if I do not take the rook, if I play king g1, that can happen. Then I have rook h1 checkmate, right? So this double attack was the attack, like we were attacking a piece and then we were threatening checkmate. But the right execution is where we don't hurry and we don't give our material. We wait to give the checkmate, right? So I think that's the answer here. Any other moves white can play to avoid loss of material? I don't think so. Right? You can play rook e1, but it's then again going to end up in the same thing. Check, take, queen h5, checkmate. And if he plays knight c1, it's again the same thing. Rook takes h3, king takes h3, queen h5, checkmate. So queen e8, definitely the right execution. Yeah. So one other suggestion I got was like queen f7, and the idea is that if I play a3, then queen h5, which is a double attack on h3 and e2. Yeah, I guess this might also be okay, but yeah, I think queen f7 is also like you can do a double attack by doing this, but I think it's a slightly inferior solution to queen e8, right? So here maybe white can simply play knight f3, and okay, he will give up a pawn, and black has an extra pawn, so I guess that works. But I prefer queen e8 because here I win a piece, like I win decisive material advantage. So yeah, that's the solution there. Again, like we are looking for patterns of a checkmate and for unprotected pieces. All right, so that's that. Any questions before we move on to the next problem? Okay. Now then we have another one. So problem number 8, I at least I thought this was relatively easier to solve, but not many of you were able to solve it. So let's take a look at it. So this is again black to play, so always keep attention to the notes here. I always say which side to play it is, so don't get confused that hey, this is white to play. I can't find the solution because it's not white to play, it's black to play. So let's just take a look at the solution. Black plays queen into d2, rook into d2, bishop b4. Okay. So in the starting position, again, there were no unprotected pieces, but black is creating a situation for it. Now after bishop b4, white has to protect his rook. If he goes rook d1, and then we have a simple rook c2 attacking two pieces. And yeah, and black wins material. There is no way, there is no double defense, and white will lose one of his bishops. So this is again piece up, black is piece up. The more challenging or harder problems require you to find a sequence which creates a which creates a favorable circumstance, right? So the challenge of these problems comes from the fact that you have to find a sequence. You have to find a sequence and create a favorable circumstance for double attack, right? So that's the lesson I would take from here, that you have to find a sequence and create favorable circumstances. Find a sequence and create favorable circumstances for double attack. Okay. Usually the sequence involves like exchanges or like forced moves. Right? So keep an eye out for such things. Any questions on this problem? Let's take a look at it from the top, just so that everyone gets it. Black takes, so white has to take. Black attacks, white has to move his rook somewhere, and boom. Simple. Okay. I'm going to assume no questions, so let's move on. Aha, another black to play. This is an interesting one. So I also didn't get a lot of answers for this problem. Like from 7 to 10, I didn't get a lot of answers, or the answers were wrong. How about this? Let's give you guys another 3 minutes just to like take another look at it, see if you can find it. We'll take a look at one more exercise, and then we'll take a break. So any of you who are looking forward to a break, just hold on one more position. let's take a look at it. So there are a few ways to go on about it. So we are looking for the most forceful solution. So let's take a look at the most forceful solution. Let's first identify the piece which has same number of attackers and defenders. That's the bishop on h6, right? So it's attacked by the bishop on g7 and it's protected by the queen on d2, right? So we have that piece. We just need to identify how to attack it, how to use double attack for the bishop. So first move, black plays knight into e4, and this is a very forcing move, right? So after knight into e4, the queen on d2 is getting attacked, so white has to respond. Let's say it takes with the knight, then again I take back with the knight, and white takes f into e4. Now black is one piece down, but he has a pawn for it. But now we have this queen h4 check, and that's where our double attack comes into play. He has to move, or maybe he plays something like queen f2, and now boom, I take it. Maybe I take queen into h6 or just go into a favorable endgame. And this is not decisive advantage, but black is a pawn up, and that's I think a good advantage, right? So not a decisive, but that's the best we could do from the given position. And okay, we were able to gain material. I think that's what we're looking for. And then, having said that, I think there is another way to gain material. That another way is knight into g4. So knight into g4, the theme is the same, that if I take the pawn, knight on g4, then I'll give a check, and again it's the same thing, right? Just my concern with this move is that white has, white can take on bishop g7, but luckily for black, so he can take on g7, and if I take, then white will win a piece by doing this. But luckily for black, he has another intermezzo, like queen h4 check, but this is something you have to calculate. So bishop into g7, then queen h4 is something you should calculate, because if you don't, then you'll end up piece down. So there is queen h4 check, king g1, and then there is another check that black needs to give, and after king c2, then take king into g7, and now black will win decisive material. But you should calculate this, like if you don't calculate and assume that white will only play f into g4 and not take bishop into g7, then in my opinion, that's an incorrect solution, or at least an incomplete solution. And by definition, an incomplete solution is not a right one. The onus of finding the alternatives, like what your opponent can play, how differently your opponent can play, and how that can affect your calculation, that onus is on you. So if you're missing some moves, even though you have found right moves before, but you're not able to find the right follow-up, then I think that's a bad sign, because you need to find the whole solution. If you are not able to find a good follow-up, then there is a chance that you might end up in a bad position, right? If you found the first right move, but you're not able to find how to play the second, third, fourth moves in that combination, then that's a bad sign. So that's why if you are thinking of taking the pawn on g4, you better calculate what will happen if white takes black's bishop on g7. You should calculate this intermezzo, like this change of flow that white can change, right? So fortunately, after bishop to g7, black can give a queen h4 check, and then he doesn't lose his knight on g4. In fact, ends up with more material, but you have to calculate this. So for that reason, I think knight into e4 is a much more direct approach, because now things are getting forced. Now white doesn't have time to take on g7, because then I'm attacking your queen. And okay, if it takes, then again the same thing. It's the same thing, but the execution matters, right? The more forceful the execution, the better it is for you, because then there is less chance of you going wrong, right? So I'll just say knight f into e4 is a good move. This is a more forceful. This is a more forceful solution. White's queen is under attack, and white has to respond to that. Okay, and I'll also say that knight into g4 is also a good move. It also works. Also a good move is knight into g4, but then you have to but now you should know what black will do if white takes on g7, right? So you have to calculate all the variations. Okay, so that takes care of this. Again, a simple line, but I'll just insert a diagram here. Yeah. Any questions before we move on? We'll just take a look at the last position and then head off for a break. So one thing I'll say is that I don't think anyone gave me solutions to all the problems, but and so you guys should take a look at these solutions yourselves. Like spend some time looking at the solutions we discussed today, because I might be going at a bit faster pace than you guys can catch up with. So, or you guys might have like more questions if you take a look at these solutions in a much slower manner. So again, my recommendation and advice is take a look at these notes offline when our lesson is over. Okay, I always upload these notes to Drive. I hope by now your parents have shared these resources with you, the notes. So take a look at them and make sure that you know what solutions we're discussing, if they make sense to you, that you have no more doubts. That's important to me. Okay, last position. This one, there is like a less element of double attack. There is a small element of double attack in this position and more of a mating attack. But I gave this problem as a fun exercise, like the last one, so that you guys have fun solving these problems. So let's just take a look at it. The first move, black takes rook into d5 check. Okay, so this is the double attack. Duh, right? I mean, this is a pretty obvious double attack, and the question is, what happens if white takes queen into d5? And if it takes queen into d5, then black has this mating attack. Bishop g6 check, and now white's king can only go to c3 or c4. And after both these moves, there is this checkmate. I think this diagram does this position deserves a diagram. This is more like a mating pattern exercise than a double attack exercise. But okay, I think this was a fun position to solve. And the same happens if you play king c4. Again, I give rook c2 checkmate. White cannot go anywhere. White's king cannot go anywhere. Checkmate. Yeah, after bishop g6 check, he has to go there. And if he plays queen e4, then all of you know what will happen. I'll just take, and like more material. Maybe play b6 or just take rook into a2. Maybe play b6. I'll just take rook into a2. Yeah, and black has decisive material advantage. He has a rook for a bishop, and this endgame is winning. Like that's the motto. Let's take a look from the top. So yeah, this position definitely looked precarious for white. For black, but things can be forced. Look into d5, takes check, and now checkmate. Okay. All right. So with that, we have looked at all the solutions for the homework exercises. If anyone of you is looking forward to a break, go now. We'll meet back in by 11 a.m. Okay. Cool. Also, if you have any questions, feel free to send me on chat box. I'll take a break myself. All right, I'm gonna start back. So last week we studied double attacks, and this week we are studying a special type of double attack. So the theme is discovered attack, right? So let's just recap what we did. The first week it was pens, second week it was knight forks, third week we did a double attack, and fourth week today we are doing double attack. It's really a special case of double attack, right? So discover attack will eventually we are doing like a double attack, but it's a very special case in that sometimes things are not as obvious as a double attack is. Okay, but anyway, let's just start looking at this position. Let's just take a stab at this position. So this position is white to play, and as with all tactical positions, we are trying to gain a decisive material advantage or a mating attack. So stuff like that. So that's like our goal in this position. I'll give you guys 5 minutes, and then we'll look at how white executes on this motif. I'm starting to get answers. It's good, son. Okay, 2 more minutes. Okay, let's take a look at this. So as with double attack, we are again looking for the same things: unprotected pieces, number of attackers and defenders being the same, stuff like that. So here we have an unprotected queen, but how do we take advantage of it? So what white does is that he creates circumstances, right? So again, as I said, like this will be a repeating pattern. So for all of our, or at least most of our tactical studies, that we'll have to create circumstances to take advantage of a particular type of tactical thing. First move, white plays rook into e6 check. Really a brilliant move. And once you calculate black's options, then you will understand what white is really trying to do here. If black takes rook into, if f into e6, then I have bishop g6 check, and this is the discovered attack that now we see. First of all, there is this check, but then we also have this discovered attack on black queen. I take queen. I have a decisive advantage. If I take with the other side, then I have bishop b5 check, and again it's the same thing. The real attack is on the king, but the discovered attack is on the queen. Take into d4, decisive advantage. So rook into e6. Simple demonstration of the discovered attack. Yeah, so I think the best bet for black is probably not taking the rook. Maybe go something like king f8. In which case, white can simply return back his rook, say to e4, and I think he has a good advantage. He has a positional advantage in that Black's king is now weak. It's not castled. And he has also got on a pawn and he has an attack. So, but I think the main theme was what happens if Black takes White's rook, right? So because of this possibility, White is able to gain more advantage. Rook into e6 check. I think both of these positions serve a diagram, so let's just give them their own diagram. Okay, I'll just save it. Discovered. Any questions? Any questions? All right. Let's take a look at a new position. All right. All right. New position. Let's take a look at another position. King to g8, pawn sets. All right, that looks about like the right position. Cool, White to play. White to play. Two more minutes, and then we take a look at the solution. White to play. one more minute. All right, let's take a look at this. I didn't get any answers yet, so seems like this is a bit tough one. It's a bit toughy. Let's get people involved in this, right? Instead of me just giving out answers, who would like to share what they're thinking about Riddhi now? Would you like to share with us what you're thinking, Riddhi now? Go ahead. You can unmute yourself, or I'll do it for you. Yeah, you're unmuted, Rudinov. Maybe you can share your thoughts with us on what you're thinking what should play.
I don't really have anything to share.
Okay, let's just think that this is a position in one of your games and white to play. What would you play here as white? Any move. As white, what will you play here? I'm not asking for a solution. Like, I just try to play a move for white. Anything. Archit would like to suggest something. Or okay, Ridino. Let's give Ridino a chance. He wants me to unmute him. Unmute. Okay, Ridino is unmuted. Go ahead, Ridino.
So what I would do if I was playing a game was I would move my knight on f3 to e5 to like start an attack.
Okay, so maybe knight e5. I think that's an interesting choice. Okay. Okay, then Archit also wanted to say something, and then we'll give Anushka a chance. Okay, so let's give Archit a chance. That's iPad, right? That's iPad. Okay, Archit, go ahead. You're unmuted.
So if I was a white, I would play rook a4.
Interesting. Rook a4. Okay.
And then when the queen's only option is queen c5. So then I would play bishop e3.
Okay.
And then
And then I guess black has a few ways he can play here. Maybe he can play something like like queen e7, and I think the game will go on. But I don't think white has won any material here. Like I don't think he has a material advantage. I think he has some activity, and I think play will go on. Like okay, so I guess I'll just say this is as equal. Nothing special for either side. Okay, but thank you for sharing. I really appreciate that. Yeah, let's give Anushka a chance. Anushka wanted to say something.
I was thinking, so I would attack the rook by going to bishop e7, and since the rook The rook has to go to e8.
Right. So let's take this slowly. So bishop e7. Now this is attack. So rook has no other option but to go to e8.
And then I thought bishop b4 because it's attacking the queen, and the black rook is unguarded.
Yes, that's nice. So this is the discovered attack, right? So attack the queen, but I'm also attacking the checkmate, right? I'm also attacking the rook, and yeah, actually, you just shared the right solution with us. So congrats, Anushka. Good job. Yeah, and so this is the discovered attack, right? So this is the pattern. As with other, like as we are starting to notice that we don't have a discovered attack from the starting position, but we are creating a favorable circumstance by finding this sequence. So bishop e7, we displace black's rook to a square where it's unprotected, and which also gives us a chance to play this discovered attack now. So good job, Anushka. The challenge in these positions is to finding a sequence where you're creating favorable circumstances for a tactical motive. Like we have studied pins, we have studied knight forks, we have studied double attacks, and now we are studying discovered attack, which is a special case of double attack. And with most of these tactical themes, very rarely, sometimes, sometimes and very rarely we'll have like a pattern that exists. But most of the times you have to calculate a sequence where you create a circumstance for that particular tactical mode. In this case, for a discovered attack, by playing bishop e7 on the first move, we are forcing the black rook to come to e8. If it doesn't come to e8, and let's say he plays something like bishop d7 because he wants to protect his rook on e8, by that time there is already, the time has passed. I can take the rook, and now again I have decisive material advantage, right? I have a rook for a bishop, I have more material. So if it doesn't respond to our threat, then we win material. If it responds, then again we win material by exploiting a tactical theme. Bishop b4, and yes, white does win. I got to say that after bishop e7, black does have another option. So he can play something like f5. The idea being that if I play something like rook e2 or rook e1, then black instead can go to rook f7, right? So he doesn't have, the rook is not going to e8, so that's black's idea by playing f5. But in that case, now white can simply play rook a4, and the bad position of the black queen gives us material advantage. Now the black queen is trapped, the c5 square is covered by the bishop, and white wins material, right? So there is that. So keep in mind things, like some other variations also, but that's what happens if black plays f5. So with bishop e7, I'm also giving a threat of playing rook f4. So rook e8, and then bishop b4 is again the right move. If you guys might have a question, what happens if I play rook a4? Will I still win the queen? Yes, you will win the queen. The queen is still trapped, but I don't think it's a decisive advantage, a decisive material advantage anymore, because now black can take the bishop on e7. You obviously take the queen, black takes the rook, but now the material balance is black has bishop and rook for white's queen. So materially speaking, that's a slight advantage to white. But when I look at this position holistically, when I look at positionally speaking, white does not have significant advantage. Okay, so materially, slight advantage. And this is kind of like a hard concept for you guys to understand. I'll definitely admit that this is a hard concept. Evaluation, how to evaluate a position in itself is a very, very complex subject in chess. In fact, many grandmasters, even world champions, Magnus Carlsen, Vishwanathan Anand, Gary Kasparov, they have all struggled with identifying in evaluating complex positions. So that is something will probably work like maybe a year or 2 years down the road. It's a very complex subject. Before we touch how to evaluate positions, we have to, there are a lot of other topics that we'll have to cover. But for now, I will just say that this position is equal than anything else. A rook and bishop is not, materially speaking, is slightly lower than the queen. But when I take a look at the position as a whole, I think this position is not that bad for black. In fact, I think it's equal. So that's the reason why this particular trapping of the queen is not such a bright idea. I'll just say it's a mistake. A better idea is just to play bishop b4, where now you're trying to get the whole rook. And here what happens is that if black takes rook into e4, then I take bishop into e5. And now the material balance is you have a queen, you have a rook for a queen. So that's a much bigger material advantage. If black takes bishop on a5, then I take the knight on e4. Now it's queen for a peek, right? So again, it's both times it's a decisive material advantage. Yeah, so queen for a rook is a very decisive material advantage. Queen for a rook and minor piece. Yeah, there are some positional aspects to consider when we are going for that sort of material imbalance. In any case, Anushka, good job. Points to you. So yeah, another example of discord attack. Let's take a look at a new position. By the way, any questions on the previous position? Okay. So in that way, let's take a look at another position. It's on C1. Oops. Okay. So that's that. White to play and win. Again, remember, like discord attack is a very special case of double attack, and so you're essentially looking for the same thing as double attack, which is look for unprotected pieces, look for piece or a point which has an equal number of attackers and defenders. And if that situation doesn't exist, then you have to calculate a sequence. You have to create a favorable circumstance for a discord attack, right? So keep that in mind when you're trying to solve this position. This position is white to play. You guys have 5 minutes. Okay, your time starts now. Start calculating. White to play. Share your solutions with me on the chat box. One more minute. All right, let's open up this session. So who'd like to share his thoughts? Who should we ask? How about Adip? Adip, you've been quiet of late. Let's get you talking. White to play. What? How would you like to continue? I'm unmuting you. Okay. Unmute Adip. Okay, Niveta has an idea, so let's unmute Niveta. Niveta, can you unmute yourself?
I think that the first move should be queen to c4.
Okay, queen to c4. Oops. What a black play.
And next, the king could move to f8.
f8, okay.
And then the queen moves to d5.
Queen moves to d5. Interesting.
And then the rook comes down to the rook on b7 comes down to b5.
b5. Here?
Yeah.
So that's why would you play that? Now the rook is under attack from so many pieces. If you play rook b5, I can just take your rook, right?
Yeah.
And you're down a material. Yeah, so I don't think rook b5 is not a good move. Yeah, and I don't think this is going anywhere. Do you have any other suggestions to give to share? Okay, so queen c4, I don't think it's going anywhere. I think there was a suggestion to play f4. The idea being if black takes on f4, then you're taking rook into f5. So yeah, I think that can happen. So there is a pin on this pawn, right? If the pawn takes on f4, then there is the pin on this pawn that bishop on f5 can get lost, but black can simply take on a5, take on a5, then take on f4, I guess. And yeah, now actually there is a reverse spin because now bishop on e2 can be lost. So I don't think f4 is also a good move, not the best move. I don't think f4 really works. Anyone else? Adip, why can't I unmute you? Do you want to share, Adip? Get talking. How about someone else? Maybe Jigar Butt. All right. So let's take a look at this position. There are no unprotected pieces in black's position except for the bishop on f5. So we saw that f4 is not working. And there is this rook on a7, which is protected by b7 rook. So we have equal number of attackers and defenders on
Oh,
a7.
I think I have an idea.
Rook.
I have an idea.
Who's this?
Adip.
All right, Adip, please share. What would you
Where
like
I'm
to
going
say?
with this one is that I'm going to move my bishop to a6.
Aha, so when I say rook on a7, Adip has some ideas. Okay, interesting. Bishop a6, okay.
I would just
So you're attacking black's rook, right?
I
So
only
black's,
was the only reason why I was also not responding because I was just thinking.
all right. Okay, so now what will black play?
So he's just gonna like get out of the situation. So like for example, 8.
Rook b8. You mean?
Yeah, and then
Okay.
our bishop will go to c4, check, and free rook.
Right. So again, we see discover attack, right? So we give a check, but then I'm attacking this rook on a7. That's right. Yeah. So we give a check and then collect the whole rook, right? So yeah, that's the pattern there. Bishop a6 is the correct move, correct solution. Yeah, and black is forced to give up his rook on a7 or on b7. In this instance, he would be better to like play his king to h8 because that is a double attack, and then take, and white is an exchange, right? But this position, this definitely needs another diagram, discover attack. So good job, Adip. Good job. Bishop a6, yes. So as I said, like you are creating circumstances favorable for double attack. That's what you're doing. Okay, let's take care of this position. Let's take another one where sometimes you're not really going for a material advantage, but you're going for mating patterns. You have identified a mating pattern and you're going for a mating attack. Okay, white to play this position. New share, white to play. Yes, this position is white to play. 5 minutes. 5 minutes to think on. All right, 2 more minutes. All right, so I'm getting an answers, and let's take a look at it. Okay. So there are a lot of like checks that white can do. Queen c4 check, queen b3 check, and they're all they look attractive, but there isn't much white can do, right? So check, king h8, knight f7 check, or king g8 back, and white can only give checks, right? Go back, and there is no progress. But let's give our friends a chance to share their answers. So Adip shared answer for the last position. Let's give someone else a chance. How about Devesh? Would you like to share your answer?
Daddy, 1 second, turn off. I need silence.
Devesh, feel free to unmute yourself when you want to share the answer. Would you like to share the answer, Devesh? Okay, should I unmute you? There was a bit of a noise when I unmuted you. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, the answer that I found was knight takes on c6.
Okay, so knight takes c6, right? So this is an interesting move. The discord attack is on the queen, right? So one small variation is if black takes queen into c6, then there is this checkmate. Okay. So black takes white's queen, which is up for free. Now what will you do?
Then knight takes on e7.
Knight takes e7 check. That's correct. And black's king can only go to one square.
h8.
h8, and
And then knight to f7 checkmate.
Knight to f7 checkmate, right? Yes. So this position, this exercise was more on the mating pattern, but we saw a discord attack on the first move, right? So the discord attack was on the queen, and also this checkmate threat that white is giving on the side. To their credit, Adip also found a solution to this position. And I think Archit also did. So good job, guys, for finding the solution and then sharing it with me. Yeah. So I think relatively simpler if you find the right pattern. But again, it goes to show what kind of discord attack can happen. Okay, let's take a look at maybe 1 or 2 problems, and then we can call it a day. Let me find a bit more challenging problem if I can. Aha, I think I have a perfect problem for you guys. Hold on. So this new problem that we'll be looking at is has come from like a normal course of the game, and I think it's interesting to look at it. G1, H2, G2, oops. Oops. Right, okay, white to play. So at least I think this is a bit subtle, not difficult, but subtle. So maybe take like 10 minutes if you want to take it. White to play. White to play. Guess this will be the last position of the day. So I'd like all of you guys to try equally hard. Another 3 minutes. By the way, it's 12 p.m. and we'll be going a bit over time in today's lesson. I want to complete this position before we sign off for the weekend. I would require, advise you guys to stay on if you can. But if any of you wants to go anywhere, feel free to leave if you want to. If you have some other places you have to leave, I will upload the notes for this position, and also you can take a look at the lesson recording offline if you want to do that. But my advice would be to stay if you can. We'll be going about like 5 to 10 minutes extra. Maybe we'll finish like around 10 p.m. Another 10 minutes. So it's up to you. Just want to say that. Anyway, you guys have another 3 minutes to think on this. If you find solutions, then or want to share your thoughts, you can share that on the chat with me. I guess that's about 10 minutes of thinking time. Maybe one more minute. Excuse me, sorry. Maybe one more minute and then we take a look at this. Okay, let's take a look at it. Okay, one variation that was suggested to me was bishop into g4, f into g4, and then knight e4. Okay, but if knight e4, then I take knight into e4. If you take rook into e4, that's a very bad move because now white gets checkmated after queen into f2 check, king h1, queen f1 check, take mate. Okay, so there wasn't, I mean, white is not doing good. Yeah. And if you take queen into e4, then still white doesn't get mated, but that still is not like a good position for white, right? So black is attacking, not really a good choice. So yeah, I mean, I think you guys are looking for like a discovered attack, and then you might be thinking. I think most of the variations I saw, they had to do with some sort of discovered attack by the knight. You know, like so the knight moves like to e4 or b or some other place, and then you're attacking d6. I guess. So most of the variations, you guys are looking for a discovered attack like on the d file. I can understand that, but but you know, like I think in most of these variations, it's not making white's position better. White is not winning any material. It's not making white's position better. It's just maintaining equality or worse. You know, like white is ending up being a piece down or a pawn down or getting mated, right? So that's why I like this position. It's a bit subtle. The reason I put this position on the board is because it happened in a grandmaster game, right? White had just sacrificed a pawn and black fell for it. And the solution is really elegant and interesting. So there is nothing on the d file that white exploits. He exploits this bad placement of black's minor pieces. And let's see how he does that. The first move white plays is f3. Okay, so like it's simply attacking white's black's bishop. Black's bishop has to go. He doesn't have any other squares. He goes to an h3. He can just take the bishop. So he goes to h5, and now we see a master level discovered attack, f4. So at the same time attacking the knight and the bishop. So if you take bishop into e2, then I'm going to take f into g5, exploiting a very tactical nuance. I'm attacking the queen. The queen has to take on g5, and then I take rook into e2. And I end up with decisive material advantage. I end up with a piece up, and that's what it's all about, right? Tactics means we are trying to make our position better. We are trying to gain material. Albeit in this instance, yeah, black has 2 pawns for a piece, but as I said, you know, like positionally speaking, white is a bit better. You know, like materially, he has an advantage, but he also has a positional advantage, and that's why I think I'll give white a decisive winning advantage here. So let's just take a look at that sequence from the top. f3, attack the bishop. Bishop has no place to go, only h5, and then I play f4. Attack the knight. If you take the pawn on f4, then I take bishop to h5 again, giving me a decisive advantage. So a bit subtle solution, not there is no mating threat or anything like that, but all white has done is that he has taken advantage of some tactical nuances present in black's position. But still, it's a case of a discovered attack. Right, so f4, let me just give it a diagram. Discovered attack on the bishop on h5, but also attacking the knight on g5. So the answer is pretty simplistic, but you need to look at that direction. Again, what white has done here is he has created a circumstance by which he's exploiting that circumstance with a Discovered attack. He's creating a circumstances for a Discovered attack, right? All right, so I think that about concludes our lesson today. I'll upload these notes online so that you guys can take a look at it. I again highly encourage you guys to take a look at both the solutions that we took a look at for last week's homework. There might be some things you guys might have questions on, and the second is take a look at today's solution. And as usual, I'll upload the notes, the solutions for I'll upload a homework for the next week's lesson, right? Okay, so with that, we'll sign off for the weekend. Have a good weekend. We'll meet next week. Any questions before I sign off? All right, have a good weekend, everyone. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.